welcome to Master of Interior Design information session. My name is Eleni, Graduate Program Administrator. Tonight, I have my colleagues joining me. Daniel Garcia, the Manager of Administration, and the Graduate Program Director, Luis Weissel. And then we have a guest speaker, Dina Badaway. All right, just a quick agenda for tonight. We have a very short intro. Luis will continue with the program overview. Dina will talk about her experience at the program. I will continue with admissions and funding. At the end, we will have a Q&A session. Okay, over to you, Luis.
Great, thank you so much, Elaine, and welcome everyone to our information session. I would like to begin with the TMU land acknowledgement. Toronto is in the dish with one spoon. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Welcome to our information session for the Master of Interior Design, the post-professional degree program. And we're going to start by just introducing you to a whole bunch of areas about the school and the program. Clearly, we're located in the School of Interior Design at the Creative School at TMU. And I just wanted to start off with showing you some of the spaces that we have that help support students in the Master of Interior Design program. We are really fortunate to be able to have our own building, and our graduate students have their own studio space, which Dina may mention as well. But it's a really just wonderful building that's really filled with, I feel like, just activity, events happening all the time, resources available to you. So we really tried to make sure you have everything you need in order to pursue a research topic that you would like to work on over the entire year. And one of those spaces is our design facilities and a few labs that I will be sharing with you through images. And our design facilities include the Design Center, which this is just a quick view of it on a very clean day. Oftentimes there's lots of students in there pulling out different samples, materials. And we also do have another satellite design center just off that's located in the library from Material Connection, which is a fabulous resource for different materials. We also have a workshop that's housed within our building, and this is a view into this wonderful workshop space that we have that students have access to. And we also have 2 full-time technicians who work there, and they help guide students on any questions they have about how to work with different materials, or if you're making models, needing to work with different tools. And there's a whole range that include a traditional woodworking workshop, which you're not seeing in this view because this is the nice one of the big open space, but we have a machine room that's just adjacent to it. And in the lower level, students can also work with plaster and ceramics, but there's also opportunities to work with a whole range of materials. But it's a way of looking at if you're one of those making people and want to figure out how to make certain things, the Design Center is one opportunity. And we also have our Design Technology Lab, which is located right next to our building. I feel like sometimes if we could just make a hole or a door from our basement into this basement, we would be connected. So the two are right next to each other. And it is run by a faculty member. Oh, if we could just go back to that previous slide, I'm just going to mention a few things. What you're seeing is our big robot. That's one of the things that we have available, but it's filled with all types of technology, everything that includes laser cutters, 3D printers, CNC routers, and robots that are the big one, but also much smaller, of digital weaving machines. So it allows students to really explore materials that are both hard materials, soft materials, all different forms of production. That once again, if that's an interest that you're bringing into how you might be making and working on a design thesis project, these are all there to support you. And in the next slide, this is just a quick snapshot of some of our design studio spaces. We do have two full floors that are dedicated to studio spaces, most of them to our undergraduate program. But we have pinup spaces throughout and smaller lecture spaces that are used by all the programs. And they're just wonderful spaces that feels like there's a lot of space for collaboration and seeing what one group is doing or another group. And we try to have that atmosphere of making sure that everything is really open and visible. It's been wonderful this past week because we've been having final reviews. And so student work has been pinned up everywhere. And it's just a nice way of seeing what everybody is working on. So maybe we'll go on to the next one. We do love having events. It's whether it's lectures, awards night. The big one is our year-end show, which is organized by a student-run group that does have graduate student presence on that. And it is just one big way of showing off all the work that has taken place over the course of the year. It's also a great way to show your work to all of the practitioners, the professionals working in the industry. They come in and they walk through everything. And it's just a nice way of making everybody connect, but also to be able to showcase work and seeing where that branches off next to or next in one's career. And then I always like to show a few images that we call our alumni spotlight, just because we have some really amazing alumni that have gone through the School of Interior Design. And while they've gone through undergraduate programs, they are leaders in the interior design world, such as Jabu Pushelberg, and they continue to always give back to the school through awards, through hiring, just in so many different ways. And they love hearing from students what they're doing. And so we always pull them in at various times, and just wonderful to have them. In another alumni spotlight, we also have Mason Studio, and they also have this fantastic firm. Both offices, actually all the ones I'm showing are international offices, but the school has been an amazing place that's helped kind of be a springboard for people to set up practice or to go into so many different areas upon graduating. And that's what the Master of Interior Design is also meant to do, is to open up pathways into practice, teaching, just into everything that gives someone a way of pursuing their interest and seeing where that can take them. And I believe we have one more alumni spotlight, which is from Bertie Fielick, another international office doing work kind of all over the place. And I would say doing a lot of work in retail and sort of redefining the conventions of how we look at retail spaces. So in our next one, we have the curriculum, and I do just want to spend a few minutes talking about the curriculum. And I know there might be questions about this afterwards, which I'm glad to help answer. But just to give you a little bit of more information right now about the curriculum, it does run for a full year. So the program starts in the fall term. So typically, right at the beginning of September, we go all the way through the winter term and then the spring summer term of the next year, which ends in roughly the mid to end of August. So it is a full 1 year program. And at the beginning, there's a few courses that you take. At the very end, it's the Milestone Creative Research Project, which is really the reason you would come to the program, is to pursue this 1 year research project that you feel passionate about. But we start off with the design research seminar, which is really meant to be like a thesis prep course where there's readings, discussions, and it's meant to really open up and give assignments that help you expand upon the ideas you're interested in. And at the same time, there's a graduate elective, a whole set of options to choose from. And at the end of this term is when the creative project proposal comes together. We just had the open review of our graduate students presenting their projects yesterday, and just felt like a wonderful celebratory event to get to that point. And students are doing so many things, working on how artificial intelligence is informing design. I know, Dina, you'll hopefully talk about yours with working on child development and interior design. We have others on working with sustainability and housing, and then also looking at healthy interior design. So a whole range of topics that we're seeing. And it's nice that they're all kind of very different paths that everyone is pursuing. And with that, every student has a faculty supervisor that helps guide them throughout that whole process. And then we also bring in external critics to be able to come in and give more feedback. So the winter term goes into another design research seminar that once again helps really build up more of the writing that takes place for the written part of the thesis, but it's also the creative project piece that's the piece that's a really big part of what's getting developed. And another graduate elective, and at the end of the winter term is the creative project phase 1. And so in the proposal part, students work on their, in some ways, just a big framework or calendar that will guide them through the winter and spring summer term. And obviously things change, they get adjusted, but by the end of the winter term, it's really the conclusion of a major phase. And then they move into the spring summer term, which is all about really completing that whole project. And right now, I would like to introduce Dina Badawi, who is one of our current Master of Interior Design students. And Dina, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Dina. I am now doing my Master's of Interior Design here. I also did my Bachelor's of Interior Design at TMU. I was very invested when I was in undergrad in finding out more about the master's program because there was talk about it happening. And so I was constantly, in course union, trying to talk to people, trying to find out when that's going to happen so that the moment it started, I was like, okay, I'm in, I have to do this. I had known that I wanted to do something potentially like to go into teaching, and this was a great pathway for me. A lot of people do their Bachelor of Interior Design and then go into a Master's of Architecture, which is a great path. But for me personally, I wanted to continue in the interior design realm, and to do that, I personally really care about what purpose our interiors lead to, which led to my thesis project, which is all about children's development through interior spaces and how our spaces can help shape the future generations, and to give them a space that kind of can really give them all that they need for that development, whether they had gone through traumatic events, that then they need to unlearn that, or not, where it's supposed to kind of guide their development. So I'm also a research assistant with Lois for the Healthy Interiors. And that's really interesting. We got to do a really amazing symposium where we learned so much from professionals, all kinds of professionals, scientists, engineers, everyone really, how to put together healthy interiors, especially after COVID, which we know our lives all changed. And maybe COVID was one of the reasons that I decided to do masters, because I realized, it took away a few years from my undergrad and I didn't get to experience enough of the school. And so I felt like I was not done. And so it's very good to be back, to have our own studio space, like Lois mentioned. It's always nice to be around the building and have your space, but it feels a little bit different to just have a space that is just for graduate students to go and work there. And going in and out, we connect in there. Like if you're going into work and there's another student that they're working, it's a really nice community space to have. And if any of you guys have any questions at any point, I'd be happy to drop my email in the chat. I've honestly just personally really, really enjoyed my experience doing the master's program. It's really nice to be able to hone in on one topic and just really focus all your energy on that, instead of, dividing up your energy on multiple different topics. And so that's been really, really great to do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. Yeah, I'm sure you have questions for Dina, and she's going to send her email to the chat, and you can reach out to her. I'm going to continue with admissions and funding. I know lots of you have questions for Lois as well, but I will make this quick, and then we can go to Q&A directly. To begin with, I'd like to introduce Yale School of Graduate Studies, shortened in YSGS. YSGS oversees all the graduate programs at the university. As a student at the MID program, you're part of the grad school, but you're also part of a creative school. YSGS administers all the administration for graduate programs that range from graduate admissions, policies, marketing, and promotion. Some of you, I'm sure you have already studied the YSGS website with the admissions requirements, tuitions, or scholarship and funding information. For general information such as transcripts, English language proficiency, or the application portal, you can reach out to them. For any program specific questions, feel free to reach out to us. Application process, we have the first consideration deadline, January 19, 2024. This is for both domestic and international students. What does it mean? It means if you submit your application by this date, your application is guaranteed to be reviewed by the members shortly after January 19. This is, we call in the first round. If you are eligible for a scholarship, we are going to enter your admissions application for competition. We also have a preferred deadline, December 10, which is coming up. This is for international students only. We have this deadline just to help international students to speed up the process. If you do receive an offer, you can apply for study permit early, and then we want to make sure that you join us in time for the fall. For international student, if you can submit your application by January 19, that would be the same deadline as domestic students. That we will make sure that your application will be reviewed in the first round as well. After January 19, we do accept the application as well, but depending on how many applications we receive in the first round and how many offers we issue out in the first round, then we have a limit number of space in the program. Once the program is full, we will have a couple of waitlist offer, and after the waitlist offer, we will close the application portal shortly after that. But for international, we will close the application portal the latest in March. But if we have our target international offers, we might close shortly after January 19. So that's why I want to emphasize for the January 19 deadline here. Let's talk about application process. It's a two-step process. The first step, you need to submit your application on the Ontario University Application Center. The application asks you for your personal information, your status, and your all the academic backgrounds, as well as the referee information. Once you've done that, it takes about 2 to 3 business days for the university to send you an email with information about online identity and instructions about how to upload your required documents. Here, I want to make sure that when I talk about application by January 19, we are referring to a complete application. And that means all required documents and plus your 2 reference. It takes about 2 to 3 business days for you to receive the link from us, from the university. So you want to make sure that you submit your application on the OUAC early as possible. Just have that first part done, and then set up your online identity, and everything's ready. Once you have your required documents, you can upload anytime. I'm going to continue with the admissions requirements. I will go through each component, but I will invite Lois to elaborate on proof of accreditation, that part. So just bear with me. For academic requirements, we do ask for a bachelor degree in interior design, accredited institutions. For example, Bachelor of Interior Design, Bachelor of Design, or Bachelor of Architecture, or you have passed the CEDA examination. The minimum GPA is a B, 3.0 out of 4.33 based on TMU GPA scale. For non-academic requirements, the first one is a statement of interest. Basically, it's a cover letter. We're asking you to write about your motivations to study in the program. What do you want to emphasize to studying when you are in the program? What have you achieved so far, all your academic backgrounds and your professional experience, and how those experience make you a good candidate in the program. And then we want to hear from you, what do you want to do after you complete the degree with us? Along with that, we want to see your resume, a list of all the academic backgrounds and your professional experience, highlights ones, for example, your creative practice, your career achievements, anything that related to interior design and you want to include in there. For the reference, we do require 2 academic reference. However, we understand and some of you might graduate many years ago or cannot reach out to your professors or supervisors. In that case, you can provide 1 professional reference. And the process of submitting the reference is once you submit a referee information on the Ontario University's application center, you need to provide your referee info there. The university will reach out to your referees directly with the information and the link. They will submit your reference through that link. The tips here are you want to make sure you give as much time as possible for your referee. The deadline for them is January 19 as well, which is the beginning of the winter term. I'm sure all the pros are really busy at that time, so you want to make sure that you follow up with them. You can include your resume or your statement of interest, give as much information as possible for them to help them to refresh their memories, to write a polished reference for you. Okay, the last piece is portfolio. We are asking for 10 to 15 pages of design or design related work. If you have any professional work experience, you can include your office projects. Any project that is completed on a team project that you need to identify the role and the scope of the work. That applies to any group project that you did in your bachelor degree or graduate degree as well. There is a form, statement of authorship form that you need to complete if that's the case. The tip here is when you submit the application portal only accept PDF file document, make sure that you have the URL there is clickable, and including the URL and the statement about your work in the 1 PDF document. Okay, so I'm gonna invite Lois to talk about proof of accreditation.
Sure, thank you, Elaine. And I'm happy to help give information about proof of accreditation. And we'll also be showing, I believe, a chart that might help share more information about this. But because it's a post-professional Master of Interior Design, it requires you to have an accredited undergraduate degree or degree that covers essentially all of the requirements that goes into an interior design education, which includes things like health, safety, welfare, because going into the post-professional means you bring all of that knowledge with you. So that way, when you work on that 1-year creative project, you already have all of that knowledge and it just automatically informs decisions, design, work that you do. So it's not entering it into without having that really important information. So there's a few different pathways. One is, yeah, this is great. So this chart, we're just finalizing it and hope to have it posted to the website within a week or so. So just give us a little bit of time, but just to make sure we've got everything correctly. But we do know that there's a lot of individual situations that may not fall under this, but we're hoping that this will be kind of a bigger framework that does help everyone. But if we just start at the top, there's different degree titles that you might have, such as a Bachelor of Interior Design or a BFA, a BA, or sometimes there's a Bachelor of Science in Interior Design, Bachelor of Interior Architecture, Bachelor of Environmental Design. So there's all these different degree titles that do cover interior design. If we follow the pathway to the left that says CETA accredited degree, CETA is the Council for the Council for Interior Design Accreditation, and they oversee programs throughout North America to make sure that they have kind of checked off like all the important boxes of what needs to happen in a program, which then sets someone up to be able to take the professional licensing exam, which I'll get to in a minute. But for CETA accredited degrees, as an applicant, you can check if your degree is CETA accredited through their website. And even if you just type in CIDA and put in interior design, you'll get to this link, or at least at the top of it when you get there, it has a list of all the accredited programs. So you can search by province and state, and in a few examples, a few other countries that also have CETA accreditation. So confirmation can easily be made through that route. In the middle one, this is for degree programs in the US that are not CETA accredited, but they still might prepare students for taking the NCIDQ exam. And essentially that's one of our benchmarks. We just want to make sure whoever's coming in has met all the requirements that if they choose to take the NCIDQ exam, which is the National Council for Interior Design qualifications, which and actually all this is changing in Ontario right now because it's becoming now a Title Act, which means you cannot call yourself an interior designer unless you've passed the NCIDQ. So I think they're rolling that out maybe in the next year or two. So that's why it's a really important benchmark to have as a post-professional degree entry point. But there are programs in the US that some are not CETA accredited because they're accredited through a state, and that's okay too. We just need proof of that. So applicants should confirm that their degree meets the state education requirements for NCIDQ exam eligibility or equivalent professional licensure if that happens in that state. And proof is needed by at least one of the following, which could be confirmed by the university, college, or degree program website. A lot of the times they'll say it on the website, or confirmed by the professional office in the state of the degree granting program. So for example, I know I believe in New York State, there's an Office of Professions, and they have their own set of criteria that lets someone then take the NCIDQ exam rather than following CETA. So happy to share more about that. And I'll get to the bottom box. Actually, maybe I'll just go over there right now. So if you have that, then this is just to let you know about this post-professional MID program, that the TMU one-year program is not CETA accredited, so therefore it will not make you eligible to take the NCIDQ exam in Ontario. You would need to consult with AREDO, which is the Association for Registered Interior Designers of Ontario, to confirm if your undergraduate degree meets the academic requirements to apply to take the NCIDQ exam in Ontario. I know that sounds like so many parts, but happy to share more about that. I think the wording just makes it sound more complicated than it probably is. But if you do wish to take the NCIDQ exam elsewhere, you will need to consult with that jurisdiction. So for example, in another province in Canada. To the right, so this is all other degree programs that are international. The following will help the admissions team review your application for eligibility. So you will need to provide your degree name, proof that the degree meets the professional requirements for interior design in your home country, because a lot of other countries don't follow CETA. CETA is just a very kind of one little part of the world. And then to have proof of the above is needed by at least one of these two things, either confirming by the university, college, or degree program website, or confirming by the professional office in the region or country of the degree granting program. And if the confirmation is not in English, we just please ask that you provide the English translation for that. But once again, if you meet all of that criteria, and because we understand students in or graduates from programs internationally may have gone through a rigorous interior design program, which the natural path would then be to go into a post-professional Master of Interior Design. So we want to make sure that path is available and open to you. We just need to make sure that you've met the requirements in your home country as if you were continuing on a professional path. So similar to that middle box, we just want you to know once again that the TMU program, because it's post-professional, it is not CETA accredited. So if you did wish to pursue taking the NCIDQ exam in Ontario, you would just have to follow through on that path. I know that was a lot, but I'm glad to help answer questions when we get to our Q&A.
Thank you, Louis. That's really helpful. Yeah, I'm sure they have a lot of questions. So I will just continue with the funny, exciting part, and then we will go direct to the QA. We have two types of funding, internal and external on this page. I'm talking about admissions awards, internal funding, and the program awards. When we issue an offer to you, we will attach the funding to your offer. The first one is a Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Fellowship, ranging from $2,000 to $6,000. This is for domestic students. For Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Development Award, it's the same value from $2,000 to $6,000. This is for international students. We have one Ontario Graduate Fellowship for the program. It's valued at $12,000 for 1 year. In addition, we have program awards. Once you are a student in the program, we will reach out to you once the submissions are open. So again, for the admission awards, you don't need to apply. We evaluate your admissions application. When you receive an offer, we will attach the awards to your offer. Okay, for external funding, the first scholarship is Ontario Graduate Scholarship. We also have Toronto Med Graduate Scholarship. It's valued at $15,000 for 1 year. You need to have a A- in each of the last 2 years of your degree in order to be eligible. If you are eligible, we will reach out to you in February and March for a supplemental form. This scholarship will use your admission application for competition. We will submit that on your behalf. When I emphasize the January 19 first consideration deadline, that's one of the reasons for here. So if you do eligible, I suggest you to apply by that date. The second scholarship is Social Science and Humanities Research Council Canada Graduate Scholarship, short in short. 17,500 award for a year, and same eligibility with A- for each year of the last 2 years of your degree. Unfortunately, the deadline was passed December 1st. However, for any of you who are applying for future fall 2025 or 2026, I would encourage you to apply if you are eligible. All right, so this is really a good external funding scholarship there for OGS and the TMGS. So if you're eligible for that one, I encourage you to submit your application by January 19. In addition, we also have other fundings and paid opportunities. For example, some of you might already know on the YSGS website, we have other graduate scholarships and awards, and you can check out the categories there and based on your eligibility, and we encourage you to apply. And also you heard Dina, she's a research assistant right now. So we have a lot of assistantship that you can apply as a graduate assistant or research or a teaching assistant. In addition, we also have a lot of job opportunities on campus through Career Boost and that you can apply. All right, so I went through the admissions and funding really quickly. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to stop sharing so we can go right to the questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions directly or type your questions in the Q&A session.
Can I ask a question? You said the deadline is December 10. So this is only for applying to create our account in the website.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the December 10 deadline is mostly that's what we call like a priority deadline. We're sort of encouraging all international students to apply if possible as soon as possible between starting December 10th and January 19th, just so that we have all the application documents and everything as soon as possible, starting on January 19th, and then we kind of speed up the process of reviewing the applications. So if you're considering, if you're an international student, you're considering applying, I would say you can create your initial steps. So there's 2 steps of the application, right? Step 1 is to create your account via the OUAC portal, submit your information, send your information about your education, send information about your letters referees, I guess, your letters of recommendation. And then that goes into the to the graduate admissions office. It takes a few days, and then you get the second step, which is to be able to upload your documents. So you can basically start step 1 now, today, if you want to, all the way until you fill out, you complete your application, but you should do it sooner rather than later. That's why we sort of have that December 10 deadline. And then as soon as you're ready with step 2, which is all your other documents, your CV, your portfolio, etc., those things you can start uploading as soon as you get the email from graduate admissions to complete it. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. Again, ideally you apply as soon as possible. That is the bottom line, just so that we can get moving on the applications and we can send offers sooner rather than later.
Okay, can I ask another question? Okay, you said we have to have a reference from a professor from Ontario.
Doesn't have to be
No.
from Ontario. It just you for letters of recommendation, you want just basically someone who knows your work best. And when I say your work, is your work academically, your skills, what you've been doing. Someone who can actually tell the review committee that you're a good applicant, but also why you're a good applicant, how you're a good applicant. So basically provide as much information as possible. The reason why we recommend, generally speaking, instructors or professors is because they've written this type of letters before, and so they know how much information they should provide. One of the things that we notice sometimes with, for example, professional references from outside the academic industry, right? Sometimes they just basically write something like, "This candidate is perfect for your program," and it stops there, right? So that's basically what we want to avoid. So if you do need a referee that is outside of academia, or maybe they have never written something like this before, sit down with them, take them out for coffee or a phone call or something, and just let them know, I need you to talk to as much as you can. Like, tell them why we good, how we know each other, how we work together, what kind of projects and skills you see in my work. Here's my CV, here's my statement of interest, here's my application. So just give them as much information as possible, basically. But it doesn't have to be Ontario. It could be pretty much anywhere who knows you, anywhere in the world who knows you, if that helps.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm on an open work permit in Canada. I've completed my bachelor's in interior designing from a CEDA accredited university in Canada, and I'm currently on an open work permit. So, but I'm very much interested to apply for the master's program starting fall 2024. So just wanted to confirm, like, as the immigration has allowed the work permit holders to like take admissions in for like continue with the education. If I submit the application, would I be an international applicant or a domestic applicant?
All right, thank you for that question. You more than likely will be an international applicant. You should double check with immigration in terms of your study permit and all those things. So we can't really provide sort of immigration advice or anything like that. We're not necessarily trained for that. So what I would suggest is, and I'll put a link in a second on the chat, to contact our International Student Support Center, and they'll be able to speak more of the specifics of your situation. But generally speaking, if you are in the country with a study permit, you
Mhm.
can apply as an international student.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm just
Um,
gonna read a couple questions from the chat while we, if that's okay, and I'll pass it on to Elaine or Lewis, depending on the question. So let's see, how many students will be accepted for the 2024 intake? Lewis, I'll pass that to you.
Sure, glad to help. And I think we're looking somewhere between 12 and 14. I think that's about right.
Question number 2 is, hello, how much will the fees for international students be? And I can take that one. I feel like it's an interesting question because we actually don't have the official number yet. Tuition fees are determined based on the university's budget, which is determined based on the provincial budget, which hasn't happened yet until next April. And when it's April, it's April 2024. However, we do expect the fees to be in the same range as our other programs in our faculty. Most of our other programs range between 26,000 to 32,000, I believe. So that's more or less a range that you can sort of expect for the tuition fees for international. Now, this is for the whole year on the program, and usually payments are split into three semesters, right? So you'll pay a third in the fall, a third in the winter, and a third in the spring, summer. So hopefully that answers that question. Kajal, I think it was. Oh, and just a note on that, we'll also post a link for the website for international fees in the chat, so you guys can check it out later, because it will be updated later on this coming spring, summer.
I would just like to ask a quick question. So I have already done a master's in interior design from London, the University of Westminster, but I will be relocating to Canada. So is this program suitable for me in order to like get into the job market over there?
So I can help with this one.
Yes.
So it's great that you've done a master's already from Westminster. I've heard wonderful things about the program, and I'm not quite sure, exactly what the curriculum is, but this one is really focused on the 1-year creative research project, and it's really meant to be, what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, but also how it can get you to an endpoint that you want to be at. So if it's about working on, for example, a really thorough design project, knowing that it will be sort of a kind of really big portfolio piece as a way of using that to then apply to jobs, entering into practice, especially bringing forward a specific area of knowledge that you are really interested in, and integrating that into the project. That would be one way of developing that creative research project, so it becomes something that is almost like a showcase piece to your portfolio that then can help you use that as you apply to different positions or on a job search. There's a few times where we bring in practitioners to come in and review student work. And that's one way of making connections between the students and practitioners. And that typically happens, that'll most likely happen once the projects are underway at the end of the winter term and then the spring, summer term, when students have had the time to start developing and crafting and giving shape to their creative research project. But there are a few opportunities where that does happen.
And sorry, another question. So like for a referral letter, do I like need to get a one from the previous university, like the University of Westminster as well, or the ones or any other will suffice from the bachelor university?
Oh, you mean the piece about fulfilling the requirements for entry?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
please.
so you'd have to check with the universities and to know if that's the, in some ways, almost like the terminal degree for that country. And then using that set of checklists where, if the university says like, yes, that's the one you need in order to then go practice, then that's great. It would be helpful if that were, submitted as like one document in your application as an international student, so we can see that. But my guess is it would probably come from your university.
And sorry, another question. Like, I will be applying for a status change because like my spouse is a citizen. So like, do you recommend that I apply right now or for the next, next year?
Maybe, so I think maybe that's more of a admission question. Maybe I'll hand that back over to Daniel.
Yeah, it's a really hard question, and we can't fully advise you on that one because it has to do with immigration and how long it will take the process. And so really your best bet at that point is actually contact, if you already started the process, contact immigration directly. And so you have an idea as to how long that will take. Because what's going to happen is if you apply now, and let's say if you get the status and then you switch over to domestic by the time the program begins or before that, then we can make a conversion from international applicant to domestic applicant. And then that way you'll be paying domestic tuition and can be considered as a domestic student. If you apply now and you don't get it until halfway through or later, that conversion process may not happen on time, if that makes sense. So you'll basically be considered as an international student. So, but it really depends on how long that process will take, which unfortunately I don't know. So your best bet is to contact the immigration directly to find that out. And then based on that, make your decision of what works best for you. Like, is it better to wait because they said it's going to take a long time, or maybe you want to apply and see if you get in, hopefully it will be on time, depending on what they say. So that's kind of the decision you'll kind of have to make on your side. And also considering your situation. So what is your expectation? Like, are you sort of in a rush to get the degree so you can start working sooner rather than later? Or maybe you're okay waiting a year until everything's settled and then apply for the following year. So those are kind of things you should consider. And then from there, make a decision. So let me read the Q&A one. I think this one's for you, Lois. Is it possible to apply for the MID if you don't have a bachelor's of interior design, but instead another bachelor of design? I have a bachelor of design from School of Fashion at TMU.
So BDES from School of Fashion, by the way, I love the School of Fashion. They're always doing amazing work, but it won't fulfill the same undergraduate requirements that are needed for a Bachelor of Interior Design. So when there's that option of the BDES, it's usually a Bachelor of Design, but in Interior Design. One thing that we're aiming to do, or to hopefully have launched maybe in the next year or two, is a 2-year first professional degree, which is then it doesn't need the requirement that you need for the post-professional. It's for somebody who's doing a complete change of career or change of degrees. And that would actually be the better option because then it takes you through a CETA accredited degree at a master's level. We're just still finishing it up, trying to get it launched. But yeah, so unfortunately it has to be something that is grounded in interior design.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
You said that 2-year degree maybe will come out in the next couple of years?
We're hoping, yeah, like in the next 1 to 3 years, maybe hopefully 2. But yeah, so we're looking at it coming around then. Yeah, but please keep checking back, please.
Thanks very much.
Great.
I just want to ask one question. So I'm Kajal and I did my Bachelor's of Interior Designing from India, and I'm doing kitchen and bath design, PGD in Canada from Georgian. So I did my bachelor's for 3 years and I'm doing my PGD for 1 year. So am I applicable for the Master's of Interior Designing course?
That's a great question. So once again, I would say that this would be a great example to return back to your original school and to find out if the degree you have fulfills the requirements for you to be able to practice as an interior designer back in your home country. So that way you've met their requirements, and then it's just knowing that you would not be eligible through this post-professional program to take the NCIDQ. You would have to work with the Ontario Association to find out what you would need to fulfill those requirements. So once again, it goes back to your original location of where your almost like your homeschool was, and finding out if that met the requirements for you to have a professional interior design degree.
Okay, and if I want my LOR, the requirements, so I have to take from my college from India or from the Canada college?
It sounds like you did your Bachelor of Interior Design in
Yeah,
India.
India. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say going back to your program in India and finding out from them if it has met the professional requirements.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and there's one for which is along the same lines of being an ARITO member, but not graduating from a CETA school. So what should I submit as my credentials? My ARITO membership, the documents I submitted to ARITO to prove my credentials. So that's a great question too. And for this one, so if I guess maybe I'll pose a question to get to an answer this way, that if you're an ARITO member and if they have approved you to take the NCIDQ exam, but you're just going through the steps to get there, but they've approved you, then that means somewhere in your credentials, you must have met their requirements. And that is, in some ways, for us, that's the equivalent of having completed a CETA accredited degree, because it means you've met all the professional requirements that are needed, like health, safety, welfare, all of those really kind of key pieces that we do want somebody to come in knowing. So hopefully that helps with that question.
That was my question. So when you're asking for documentation of credentials, should I be submitting the documents that I submitted to ARITO? Because yes, I did, like, because my school wasn't CETA accredited, I had to submit basically over 40 pieces of documentation going through all of those, like health and safety and, you know, code and drawing, to prove that my education was the equivalent of being CETA accredited. So I got, that's how I got my ARITO membership, but I haven't taken the exam yet. I'd prefer to go forward and do my master's before that. So that's why I'm wondering, like, when you're asking for my credentials, should I be submitting that large document of paperwork, or should I just send my ARITO membership?
Yeah, and I would say we probably don't need, because I don't think we are in a position to evaluate the same way that ARITO would evaluate your work that has allowed you to get into the ARITO membership. But I think the part that would be helpful is if you could connect back with ARITO and see if they could provide a letter saying that you've met the requirements to take the NCIDQ exam. That's the piece that we really need, is just their confirmation that you've met all those requirements.
I'm just gonna read one more from the Q&A for you. It says, I got my Bachelor of Science in Interior Architecture from Jordan/Germany. It's a joint program. I know it meets the requirements to work there, but what do I need from the home universities to submit in my application to prove eligibility? So I guess a similar idea here, right?
Yeah, it's very similar. And I have received a few questions like this where a lot of the times, even on the program's website, they'll say that, this culminates in a professional degree, and it might say, professional degree to start practicing, or, meets the educational requirements of a professional degree, because a lot of the times, even though somebody finishes the professional degree, they still have to complete, a couple years of work before they take exams. I mean, that's the kind of Canada model. Other places don't. Once you graduate from a program, you can start practicing. So it really does vary. But if the university can provide saying, this is the professional degree, then that would be great. Or this is a lot of the times we call it the terminal degree, or not a terminal, but it's the kind of I guess the first professional. That's what it goes back to, as being the first professional degree that meets all those requirements. So if the university is able to provide that, that would be fantastic. It could just be a letter noting it, or it could be, if it's on the website, it could be something that points us to it in the application process, or gives us a link to that website page. But typically a department that you graduated from would be able to confirm that.
Is it possible to do 2 master's degrees? I'm thinking of doing this one first, and then I'm interested in doing a master's of architecture. Yes, you can do as many master's degrees as you want. The only thing at TMU, or only policy here, is you cannot do them at the same time. So you have to do one first, graduate, then another one, then graduate, and so on and so forth. But yes, I think the record right now for people I've seen is someone with 10 degrees applying for the 11th. So go for it. I highly encourage it. And in all different ranges of areas, by the way, too. So there we go. Hopefully that answers that. I think it was for Alina. There's another question about the classes, hours from when to when. I'm assuming they're referring to the schedule of classes, and the length of the time and stuff like that. I don't know if Lois, you can speak to that a little more.
Yeah. So the required courses, such as the design research seminar and the elective course, those are 3 hours a week. And typically it is met as a 3-hour block. So those are those required courses. And then things like the major research project, that is completed essentially during the rest of your time. So the rest of your time is doing the research, working with the subject librarian, working with your faculty supervisor, and just really developing your master's creative research project / thesis. That's where all the work comes in. So the curriculum that was shown is also on the website, just to give you a sense of those required courses, which are the 2 design research seminars, the 2 electives, and then those other parts are all really the self-driven part of you working on the creative research project. There was a question I thought that did overlap with, I'm just looking at, is the selection of a professor we wish to collaborate with based on personal choice, or is it a requirement mandated by the school? Additionally, where can we find a comprehensive list of all professors available for master's program? That's, I knew there was one that overlapped with this a little bit, so I thought I would jump over to that one. And that's a great question. So the School of Interior Design, under our About section, has the People section, and under the People section has all of the full-time faculty. And those are the full-time faculty that are eligible to act as supervisors. And what's great is we have bios of everyone, so you can read the bios and see where everyone's area of interest is, where their research is, what kind of practice they might be doing. And hopefully that gives you an idea of the kind of supervisor you would be working with. And then we do ask in the application, to please list if there is someone that you're interested in working with. So at least it just gives us a little bit more of an advantage to know who we can connect you with to really just help support you in your research project. Sometimes a faculty member might already be guiding too many students, so we sometimes look for an option 2, or some cases an option 3, but typically everything is worked out with getting their first or second choices in terms of who to work with. But it also doesn't mean that there can't be a second reader, or an external reader also giving input on a project. So there's kind of a whole bunch of different ways to get feedback. and to be able to be guided on your project.
Thank you, Lewis. Next one here is for Dina. What is the course load like compared to a bachelor's program, specifically a bachelor's of interior design program?
For sure, I'm happy to answer that. So I'm finding that the course load in the Masters of Interior Design is actually more manageable than the Bachelors of Interior Design. Again, just back to my point that you're working on one topic, so you're choosing your thesis, which is again something that you are passionate about. And all of your efforts are really focused on that rather than having, 6 different classes where you're working on different projects with different topics. A lot of your projects are meant to guide your thesis. So even though we have different assignments in, let's say, our design research seminar, all of them are leading towards helping build your thesis topic. And so again, because it's something that you're choosing that you are very much invested in and very much passionate about, I find that it makes it easier, it makes it more exciting, and you can just kind of keep going with it because you're really just working towards something that's tailored towards just you. I don't know if that answers the question.
Excellent, Dina. Thank you very much. I see a thank you from Anusha. Sounds perfect. And I'm also putting just a couple of other questions. They're asking about the length of the classes. Like Lois mentioned, they're usually 3 hours long. We can't really provide you schedule per se, just because they change every semester. It also would depend on if you have the required courses, but you also have the electives. The electives may be scheduled again by different programs in different times. Most of them do run between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., but we do have some classes 6 to 9 when it comes to electives. So somewhere around there, between two to 3 classes per semester, depending on how many electives you take that term. So hopefully that answers that question there.
I think there is a question about the West, and then one more question about IELTS. I know the IELTS score is 7. But I'm not sure. Are they referring to the total score 7, or they have a requirement for each component?
Okay, so if you're looking at the IELTS exam, is for English proficiency tests. You're looking at the overall sort of final grade, not the individual components. So it's basically whatever the final score averaged out, that's sort of the number that we're looking at. And I think we can throw in the link in the chat for all the different. I'm sorry, I'm kind of looking at the numbers here. We can throw in the numbers in there for you because it will vary depending if it's a TOEFL exam, if it's a IELTS exam, PTE. There's a whole bunch of different options there. So we'll put in the link in the chat for you guys so you can see. But it is the overall score, and it is the academic IELTS specifically. Because I think there's 2 different types of IELTS exams. So look for the academic version for that. And then the other question about WES. I think maybe we need a little more clarification. So WES usually sort of reviews universities and sort of gives equivalencies and stuff like that for degrees. For the most part, the TMU doesn't really look at that. And when it comes to admissions, we basically have our admissions team review the universities, and based on that. Now, if you're talking about, and this is for Evelyn, I don't know if you can clarify a little bit. Are you trying to see if WES qualifications work in terms of the accreditation portion of the application? And that's my question. I don't know if you're still around. Oh yeah, so it is in terms of the accreditation. Lewis, I don't know if you know, we can answer this right now in terms of WES giving accreditation for the university, but we can maybe double check. So Evelyn, maybe do you know, Lewis, right now at the top of your No, not sure. Okay. So maybe Evelyn, if you don't mind sending us an email, and then we can look into it more specifically. Because normally the university doesn't use WES for admission purposes, but because this is for the accreditation portion, we'll have to double check exactly what kind of information they can actually provide that will be useful for the review committee to be able to determine if it's equivalent or not. Hopefully it's a convoluted process, but hopefully that kind of helps. But anyway, we'll put the email address in the chat for you at the end as well, so you can send us an email, but it's just mid@torontomu.ca, and then we can answer a question from there. But thank you for that. Again, all these questions are great because it helps us understand what kind of information we can put in there for you guys on the website and stuff like that to make it easier for anybody else to as they're applying. Are the classes offered during the day or in the afternoon? And in the second semester, will there be classes that I need to attend or just work on my thesis? I think we mentioned already, sort of like the classes could be pretty much any time during the day, depending on the semester's instructor availability and the classes you take. But I'll leave the second semester portion about the work on your thesis to you, Lois, if that's okay.
Yeah, and there will be times where you should be meeting regularly with your supervisor. So, or if there's event or presentations, then you would have to account for having those be scheduled in. But for the most part, the self-driven part of the MRP, where there's the milestones listed on the curriculum, that's where you would have to structure your own time and be able to make sure you're making progress on your MRP, your major research project.
Thank you, Lois.
Yeah. And I saw a question about portfolios, the specifications for the portfolio, and glad to talk about that. When portfolios are submitted, it's a PDF. I have a feeling there might be some specifics which I don't know offhand, such as like how, if your question is about, how big it can be, or like the size of file that you upload, or the page sizes, but I think it's pretty open as long as there's consistency. For example, if you're doing a landscape portfolio PDF, as long as there's consistency from page to page to page, just in terms of the size, almost like making a document. But Elaine or Daniel, I can't remember if there's a limit size to what could be uploaded.
I think there is a limit size. I believe it's 50 megabytes, if I remember correctly. So when basically all you have to really do, because it's mostly images and documents, it should be fine. Just make sure that when you upload the PDF, sorry, before you upload the PDF, just go into the menu and try to shrink it. There's a way to just basically compress it to a regular letter size, rather than if you're some projects, I'm assuming they're probably quite large in terms of printing purposes. So before you submit it as is in full resolution, try to shrink it a little bit down just to the regular, A4 page or something like that. So the size will be smaller, but I think it's about 100, I believe it's about 50 megabytes per file. So should be okay for most most situations, I hope. If you run into any issues, just send us an email and we can go from there.
So that was my question. I'm asking this question about to know more about the content of the portfolio. I graduated in 2014 from RSID, and it's been a while being out of school. So wanted to know what the content you're looking for to have it in the portfolio. I'm practicing residential interior design, and I don't know, like comparing to the younger talents, I feel like I'm a little bit don't know what they do and like, who am I comparing to?
Right. So first of all, that's a great question, and glad you helped clarify that. It's always nice to meet and speak with SID alumni. So really wonderful. And clearly, if you have been practicing, you have been building up a body of work that is built, and that is really great work to submit. Knowing that you've actually been going through drawings, through practice, through like all this, like the construction documents, through all those phases is incredibly valuable to show that you've completed all these pieces, you have this other body of work, and that's a great way of knowing you have all that knowledge to now bring into a post-professional degree. So so once again, any projects that you've worked on, whether they're built or unbuilt, designs that have been executed or not, or if there's even anything that you've been doing, or even like one project from your undergraduate that you feel like this one is one I feel really strongly about, or even two, please feel free to include that as well. If you've been doing anything, even additional that you're interested in, if it's more drawings or kind of anything design related, all of that is clearly going to show that you have been practicing and you carry a whole other set of knowledge with you that you could bring into the program. So all of that would be great.
So I would say if there are 15 pages to cover in the portfolio, would you like to see 15 different projects, or a process of one project can take up like 5-10 pages and then
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're showing professional work, it would be great to have there be at least maybe like at least 3 projects.
Okay.
Just so that way we get into some of the depth of it, but you're also not having to edit away too much where we can't see maybe some of the process work. But it would be nice to see something that does show, maybe there's early sketches or drawings, the steps it took to start getting things implemented or constructed,
Okay.
or starting to see a space kind of get filled out. So yeah, so I would say, at least 3 professional ones, rather than like 15 completely different ones where each page suddenly has so much on it, and then we can't really see clearly, the great things about a project. So, and this is, I think, maybe just in general for everyone, not overloading one page with so much work that it becomes too difficult to even decipher what we're looking at.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I would say it's not necessary to put things in chronological order. I know a portfolio can be organized in many different ways. For example, someone might have one section that is just about undergraduate work. Another section might be about professional practice. Another section might be about additional design work that they've done if they've dabbled in, for example, like furniture design or textiles. So it doesn't have to be chronological. I would say you should organize it in a way that really makes the most sense to how you want to present yourself, the different areas that you've worked on, and that way that clarity will come across to the committee.
Thank you, Louis. Okay, we don't have questions. Last chance. Okay, so you can always reach out to our program email address or Louis' address, whichever you prefer. And thank you very much for joining the session. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.